Okay, we would like to welcome you to the Krannert MBA Master's Programs webinar. We have 5 current students here to answer your questions. So we will start by having students give a brief introduction, name, where you're from, and program that you are in. Julian?
Hi, my name is Julian DeBow. I am a second-year MSHRM student, originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I did my undergrad at Indiana University.
Hi, my name is Sam. I am a second-year MBA student. My focus is on marketing and finance. I had a background in industrial engineering from Thailand, and that's about me.
Hi, my name is Brett Sheely. I'm a second-year MBA student focused in finance and strategic management. I'm from a town called Augusta, Georgia, and my previous experience is in federal government consulting.
Hi, my name is Shelley. I'm a second-year MSHRM student. My background is in business and law, and I went to Purdue as an undergrad, and I'm from West Lafayette, Indiana.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm from California. My background is in accounting and human resources, and I'm an MBA student with a concentration in HR.
Okay, thank you. So we will start by just showing you the different MBA programs that we have, and please, any questions you have, start typing. We're happy to answer questions. And so the MBA programs, we have our 2-year full-time MBA. The weekend MBA is for students who are able to commute to campus. It's an every other weekend program, Friday afternoon and Saturdays, that lasts for 2 years. Our executive MBA program is really for people who are well into their career, typically 10, 15 years work experience. And then our STEMBA is a brand new program. It's just been announced within probably the last 3 to 4 weeks. And that is a 1-year MBA program for students who have a STEM background, so science, math, engineering, technology. It's really a condensed MBA program, so students will take the core curriculum of the MBA, but they're not able to do it in an area of concentration like our typical 2-year MBA students will do. And then the master's programs we have, the MSHRM is Human Resource Management. That's a 1.5-year program. And it is for students who have the interest in HR, so that is the field that you are trained to go into. The MSIA program, this is actually our last year for it. It's a 1-year program, similar to like a 1-year MBA, but that program is actually going away and will now be replaced by the 1-year STEMBA. The MSF is our Master of Science in Finance, 1-year program for students interested really in more of a corporate finance field. And then the MSA is for students who have an accounting background to get that preparation for the CPA. And Master Science in Global Supply Chain Management is a 1-year program where students have the opportunity to study in India, Mexico, China, and then their last semester is done at Purdue. And GEP is Global Entrepreneurship, and that is for students who have a real focus in entrepreneurship, and they study for a semester in France, a semester in China, and then finish at Purdue, and it's also a 1-year program. So we'll start just by talking about the flexible curriculum, and this is mainly MBA focused. So again, for those of you who may have questions about other programs, feel free to type those in. So I'll open this up to our HR students if you want to talk about our MBA students. Talk about your first year, the courses that you took, kind of how it helps you decide the area of concentration, and so Lauren?
Okay, so the courses that you originally take are pretty basic MBA classes. You have finance, accounting, statistics. So these are really good introduction courses into figuring out what type of degree that you want with your MBA. Sam also, we have marketing, so from that, Sam decided to do marketing and finance. I decided to do a different approach, and I wanted to do the HR side because I like all of the aspects of business, but I can incorporate HR as well. The overall classes themselves are very rigorous. They're very quantitative-based classes. However, they're going to be very invaluable in your internships and your future careers. So, Brett, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would just say that as far as my experience in the first year of my MBA, it says that they're very team-oriented projects and assignments. I'd definitely say that that is what it's all about. They put a lot of thought into organizing the team that you're in as far as cultural and professional backgrounds. So most of the work that you're doing in these classes are case-based, and you're working a lot with those groups.
All right, and kind of build on what Lauren just mentioned, the great thing about 2 years MBA program is that on the first 3 months you got to learn all about the basic business classes. And for my case, personally, I determined to take marketing as a focus in the beginning. But then when I took a lot of finance classes, I found myself very intrigued in finance. And then that's why to date I mix all 2 majors, which is marketing and finance. And I think it's very useful.
Anything else? Dad? Okay. And feel free to type in any questions that you have. And we've got a question coming. So experiential learning is another, offers lots of different opportunities for our current students. Okay, Randy's asking, how many majors does a typical student choose to study?
I'd say you have most students have enough time to complete 2 areas of study. I'd say if you took many classes, maybe 3, but most students have about 2. Right?
Yes. So experiential learning will go on. ELI is an opportunity where students are able to do real-world work experience. So Julian did a great ELI project this past year, so if you want to talk about that.
Sure. So the experiential learning initiatives gave myself a chance to build a team of my peers, so me and 5 other master's students, and find a client that's actually sought out by the university and by Krannert, and be an actual consulting group for that client. So the company gave us a real project to work on, and the client we worked with was Fort Wayne Metals. They are a medical metal manufacturer, predominantly medical wires, such things that go in braces and heart monitors. And they gave us a chance to really look at their overall organization and really get some big issues that they had and try to figure out how to increase their overall customer response time. So we had a huge role in this company, and we gave midpoint presentations, we did surveys, and really dove deep into what the company did and what some of their issues were, and gave a final presentation to some really powerful people in the company, including an HR team, a task force, the CFO, and legal counsel. So they're very real, and it's an opportunity that I was able to add to my resume and bring up in interviews after the fact that was really unmatched by a lot of my peers from other schools. And it happened to be in a field that I was interested in. It was in a manufacturing setting. That's where I wanted to work. And that just helped me more when I actually got to my internship and started doing more work. So it was extremely helpful and beneficial for multiple reasons.
And we have another question. Did any of the current MBA students consider the weekend MBA? If so, what prompted you to choose a traditional 2-year program? So since most of you are from far away, did you consider maybe doing a weekend program like near your home rather than quitting your job and moving to Purdue?
I did. I've thought about doing a part-time MBA just because it allowed me to keep my job. But the reason I wanted to go back and get my MBA was because I sort of wanted to make a career switch. I was in federal government consulting in Washington, D.C., and I wanted to get more into finance. So I realized that if I go back, the 2-year MBA, you have that summer internship that you can do that sort of helps you make that career switch and put that experience on your resume so you can get your foot in the door when you graduate. I think that the people that do part-time, a lot of times they're already employed, or they're just looking to move up in their current position.
For me, I honestly wasn't looking for a weekend MBA program. I thought about it for a little bit. The reason I switched over to the 2 years, to knowing myself personally, I like to jump head on into something, and I know once I got to school, that's all I want to do, and then having to balance that with the work-life balance would be a little too much for me, just my own personality. Plus, the area that I live, the caliber of MBA program was not as high as other schools in the area, so that's why I made the huge transfer from California to Indiana.
No more questions, so we'll move on to study abroad. So Shelley, if you want to talk about your great study abroad experiences.
Sure. So a big part of why I chose to come to the Purdue MSHRM program is because a study abroad and international experience is required for graduation. And for me, that was really valuable. I love to travel abroad, and I wanted to learn more about business and HR practices outside the U.S. And so I chose to go to both Paris and Rome. You can do, we have what's called a global week, and then an actual spring break. So it's a 2-week spring break where you have the opportunity to go to 2 different locations. And they've actually expanded that now outside of Europe, and so you can go to South America as well. And I unfortunately don't have the opportunity to do that because we're graduating, but I would love that opportunity, and it was a fantastic experience. It allowed me to have, it's twofold. So you go to class and learn about some cultural aspects of doing business in a foreign country, as well as you get to go out into that country and experience what it's like to actually be there and learn about the culture hands-on. It was a really great experience.
Good. And the Global Business Project, Brett, do you want to talk about your experience with that?
Sure. I can say hands down that the Global Business Project has been one of the most amazing and educational things that I've participated since I've been here. Basically, it combines the ELI project with the study abroad. So it's a partnership between Purdue and other top MBAs across the United States. And instead of having people on your team from Purdue, you're working with other MBA students from other schools. So basically, you meet and you have an international company. In my case, I work for an international textiles company based out of Shanghai, China. And it's a semester-long project. You put on your team, and you do the consulting for the project over the entire semester. And at the end of the semester, you travel to that country, and you work with them for about 2.5 weeks, and then you present what you found to, in my case, I present to the CEO and other top executives. So again, it's another great opportunity to put some valuable stuff on your resume, and also you learn a lot. I got to learn a lot about the culture. I learned a little bit of Mandarin, so it was really exciting.
Anybody else have a study abroad experience? You did.
I did, yes. So instead of the Global Business Project, I went on our TBS internship project. So that's where we again work all semester, and then we go to India and we work with TBS Motors. So I was assigned a team, an international team, and we worked since about like February to May, and then in May we went to India for 3 weeks. My team was very lucky to have the fortunate ability to travel all through India, so I went to about 6 different cities throughout India within 3-week span. Got to talk to the locals, got to learn a lot about the local customs and the local business structure there, and then at the end we also presented to some to the CEO and CFs and our mentors and other higher ups within the TBS industry or company. It was like Brett said, that was probably the highlight of my Krannert experience so far.
Cool. Okay, we will move on and talk about city treks and company tours. So who's done an exciting city trek?
I did a city trek last year, my first year, which was really fun. We did it for the finance club, but all the clubs do city treks, so no matter what club you get involved in, you'll have the opportunity to do different city treks. With ours, we went to Chicago, and I'm finance, so we got to meet with top executives from Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, and a couple other huge finance companies. And we got to meet with them, ask them many questions, talk about the industry, their experience, and any other things that you want to find out from them. At the end of that day, we all met at Accenture, which is a pretty large consulting company that is in Chicago. And we had a huge networking event, met with alumni and other top graduates from Krannert, and just happened to be that the CEO of McDonald's was there. He's a Purdue alumni, so we got to talk with him. So they're really good experiences to get exposed to the industry, ask questions of the people that have been working in there for many years.
Good. So was it a few weeks ago, there was another city trek up to Chicago that was sponsored by several of the Krannert clubs and organizations. There's a city trek coming up in January to Columbus, Ohio. And then there's actually a trip that takes place during Global Week, doing business in the U.S. And so it's a week-long trip, and this year we will be going to Houston. Last year they did the trip to Atlanta. Okay, we have another question. Is Purdue part of a consortium of MBA schools? I asked, as you mentioned, other MBA students in the Global Business Project.
With that, it's a program called CYBER. It's the Center for International Studies or something like that. But that is sort of a consortium of schools around the United States for that specific reason, that they want to expose students to international projects and cultural experiences. So yes, in that area it is.
But in general, Purdue is not part of a consortium. We are our own program. Okay, next question. Is it encouraged to be a member of multiple organizations on campus? How does that affect the workload of the MBA program?
Okay, they're all looking at me. The reason they're all looking at me is I'm really heavily involved in several of our clubs here we have on campus. We have SHRM, which is our Society of Human Resources Management, which Julian and Shelley are also heavily involved in. I'm also involved in Net Impact. I'm one of the VPs there, and I'm also on our student government. So I'm the VP of International Affairs. So to say the least, I'm really involved in other clubs across Krannert and then across all of Purdue. It's very, very rewarding. I'm not going to lie. I do have a couple nights where I have several things to do, and I wonder if I'm going to get it all done, but I always manage it. But for me, that's what I like. I like having the hustle and bustle. I like meeting new people. You get to do much more beyond your class academics. I've learned so much more about cross-cultural businesses just through my international position. I learned so much more about sustainability because of my Net Impact involvement. Same thing with HR through SHRM. And because of being on student government, I work with a bunch of other amazing students that I don't get to see on a daily basis, even within my classes. So yes, it's going to add a little bit more to your workload. However, in the long run, it looks better on your resume. It looks better for future employers. You can pull leadership responsibilities from there. You get some really great management skills. I would recommend doing it highly to everybody, and I find it absolutely wonderful. So, anybody else?
Okay, next question. What undergraduate degrees did each of the students pursue before working towards their MBA? Did any of these degrees help them in their current coursework? Also, what has been the most challenging course thus far?
I can start with that. So I'm in the HR program here, and my undergraduate degree, I had a dual major in psychology and communications. And those do help to some extent with the HR class specifically, because that has a huge psychology component to it, especially in kind of the underlying themes of human resources. But at the same time, some of the other classes, so maybe the MBA courses, the marketing courses, statistics, which I'm sure will come up in the second half of your question later, doesn't necessarily help directly. So a psychology degree doesn't relate extremely to a statistics course, for example, but having certain classes did help me. But the biggest help for the classes that I didn't have a background in came in the ability to work in teams once I got here. So the fact that most of our classes, particularly in the first couple of modules in the first semester, you're set aside in teams, which someone mentioned earlier, I believe, and that's probably the most helpful thing here. So if I might not have a financial background or statistics background, most likely someone else on my team does. It can really help out with that. And then in exchange for the HR class, which I know a little bit more about from my psychology background, I can help with. So having a background in a relevant field helps, but at the same time, it's not the deciding factor of whether or not you'll do well in a class.
Okay. And what was your toughest class?
Oh, the toughest class, which I referenced earlier, for me personally was statistics. So I don't have a huge statistics background, but I have taken some sort of class like that with psychology, but statistics for psychology and statistics for business are extremely different, especially at a master's level, kind of a advanced course in a shorter time period than a full semester to work on it. And I definitely don't think I'm the only person in that. And part of that has to do with the actual level of difficulty, like I said, being at a master's level, and part of it came from my personal background and feelings towards certain classes.
Okay. Sam, you come from...
All right. I'm an international student here, and I have a background in industrial engineering. So, and I want to shift my career to the business side. So I want to focus on marketing and finance, as I mentioned. So every classes are pretty new to me. I've never taken any finance or marketing classes before. And as everyone has mentioned, I really want to emphasize the importance of team that we have in Purdue. It's actually like the work environment where you have to work with the people from different specialty, but the difference is this is the school environment. So everyone is willing to share, and you can actually ask them any questions. If someone is focused on finance, you can ask them how they do that, and then they're willing to share with you, and that's the very, very valuable thing about the team-based assignment. And the toughest class for me is, because I'm an international student, so the toughest classes for me are business law, or any kind of class that related to the background of the country that I'm not familiar with. Also, HR class is very challenging for me too.
My undergrad was in business administration, so I did get exposed to accounting and finance and marketing and things like that. I did have that exposure, but when you get to a master's level, it's still pretty tough, and you still learn a lot. So I'm a little different in that, but I just want to reiterate the point that you don't necessarily have to have those classes in your background. We have engineers, we have people, psychology majors from undergrad, and they do very well in the program, and it's always to get their different backgrounds and their perspectives that they have to share. My hardest class would probably be statistics also, but besides that, the accounting class is still pretty tough. So.
My background was in business management here at Purdue, so I had the Purdue perspective on Krannert going into this. I also have a background in law. I went to law school for a little while. So that was actually very helpful for me coming into the HR program. It's not a traditional path people take, but it did actually end up being very beneficial. And I think I was maybe a little more surprised at the rigor than maybe my counterparts were, just because I had already had that Purdue background. I felt mentally more prepared until I got here, and then I had to lean on my my counterparts a little bit heavier. But yeah, my toughest class is definitely statistics. But to reiterate, you do have that team and that community feel, so it's not just your team that you're on. You have that whole class to lean on. And there are people that are going to be great in the classes that you're struggling in, and then there are classes that you're going to be great in that others are struggling in, and you just help each other back and forth.
My background is in international business administration with a bunch of other technological minors. We won't get into that. So for me, having that introduction into accounting and finance, and I do have a professional experience in accounting, that was completely easy for me. What was the most challenging for me is I'm not a very tech-savvy person, so MIS was actually challenging for me, not in the sense that the class itself is extremely hard. I just couldn't wrap my head around what a DOS system was or how it operates within the whole business structure. But once I had teammates who are very tech-savvy or they come from the tech industry, and they were very helpful to me and explained a lot of things multiple times, to their credit. And it ended up being a really good class for me in the long run, but it was challenging because of the conceptual part of it. Finance is definitely hard because it is very number-based. Quants is very hard because it's, it's quants. But conceptually, MIS was my most challenging class.
And I'll just add very quickly that when we are reviewing applications for admission, if we see that a student is coming maybe from like a psychology background, we will recommend that those students take Harvard Business School courses. They're online courses. There's accounting, finance, and statistics are usually the three that we would recommend. So that way you can brush up on those skills and you're at least exposed to it before you get to Purdue. Okay, next question. Are students opting for operations mainly from engineering background?
For me, I'm from engineering background, but the MBA school is kind of different from Master of Science, I would say, because a lot of people who had engineering background would want to come to MBA program to switch their career. So they go, in different majors. They go to marketing, finance, HR, and even operations and supply chain. So the answer is no. It's not necessary that the people who come from engineering background would go to operations. On the contrary, a lot of people who does not come from engineering background want to go to operations and supply chains because they want to expose themselves to the different areas. Yep.
Okay, and Randy, now on the other side of the coin, wants to know what has been your favorite class or most rewarding. So Lauren, why don't we start on this end?
Oh, goodness, that's hard. I've enjoyed most of my time here at Purdue. All the classes were phenomenal. I'm currently in a class which is kind of surprising for HR. Staffing has been really interesting for me because I had a little bit, like I mentioned before, a little bit of HR professional background, but it's everything that I just kind of made up as I went. This is more of the technical statistical base of it, and I find it absolutely fascinating. So I love that class. So that one, and my other favorite class I had was back when I was studying abroad, and it was how to design a factory, and that was just completely different and totally out of my HR realm. It kind of played a little bit towards my undergraduate minors, and it was just different and odd, but now I can come in as an HR professional and say, well, now I get how the factory is supposed to be built or the flow of it, and now it helps me understand employees and what they need moving on. So for me, those two classes were absolutely phenomenal.
Okay. No more questions yet. Does someone else want to talk about a favorite class?
I can jump in. So my favorite classes, you'd think with me being HR, my favorite classes would be HR based, but while those are great, my favorite ones have been microeconomics and negotiations. Microecon, I've always had an affinity for econ, and the professor we had for economics was fantastic. It's one of the things that I think makes the class great is the passion you see in that professor. So it's a really interesting one that you can look forward to. And then negotiations is something that is very interactive day to day. So you're always in an exercise and you're always learning how to negotiate by doing it hands-on. And it's been helpful for me in just everyday life. So negotiating things like a car deal or my job offer. It's been something that I've really been able to apply to my life.
Anybody else? The STEM question, one of our staff members is going to answer that because none of our current students here are in the STEM MBA. It's so new. So we will get an answer to you. So no other questions. So favorite class?
I can mention my favorite class. So it's in the field of HR, being an HR student, which isn't too surprising, but coming into the program, I was pretty set that the one field of HR I didn't want to go into was compensation. I thought I didn't want to deal with what anyone else was being paid or any of the numbers behind that. And that was a required class here, and once I got into the class, I actually noticed that I really enjoyed it, and we had a huge compensation model project that we worked on, and I found myself really trying to take the lead and really trying to do things differently, and by the end of that class, it was actually one of my favorite classes, that module, and that was one of my favorite classes that I've taken here, and I even had a chance to go kind of out of my way during my internship this past summer and learn more about compensation as it was done in that company, and I find myself now really liking compensation because of that class. Like it was mentioned earlier, partially because of the professor. So a professor goes a long way at how they can make you feel about a topic, and the ability to teach it well as kind of communicate with me outside of the classroom really helped, and now I like compensation.
Okay, why don't we maybe address, I want to talk about the Launching Global Leaders class, and that's a class that all of our first-year students take, both MBA as well as the HR students, and STEM BA students will be taking that as well. So want to just, one of you maybe talk briefly about what LGL is and maybe what you got out of it, what you enjoyed about it?
All right. So LGL is not a lecture. It's not a lecture class. It's more like a seminar where the school would invite guest speakers from different kind of specialty. Like we invite people, the management from LinkedIn or others companies to share with us about how would we improve our career. How could we improve our leadership skill? And at the end of the seminar, we get to have an assignment on we could reflect about our idea on how we would want to improve ourselves in terms of leadership skills. And it is the 1 year class or seminar, and it happens on every Friday.
I'm going to go ahead and add to that. I was a mentor this year for the first year students, and the class has actually changed. So that's how it was for us, but now it's adjusted more to your career path and your background. So if you are someone like myself who's coming straight out of school and into the master's program, there's going to be a group of you that all meet together to work on your career goals from that perspective. If you have multiple years of experience, or if you're an international student, you have those groups as well. So they meet less frequently than we did, and it's more specialized for you.
Good. And we have another question. How did all of you know it was time to pursue an MBA? In discussions that I have had recently about MBAs, I find that people often suggest 5 to 7 years of industry experience before heading back to get the MBA. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. I think it all depends on what you're looking for and what you want to get out of your MBA. In my case, I had about 3 years of working experience. And I'm glad that I did that. Some people want to do it right out of school. Some people want to wait. I think it's really helped me out. It's given me a different perspective, especially in my classes, and how I could apply what I learned. But as far as knowing when I wanted to go back from an MBA, I think I've always known that eventually I wanted to get an MBA. I just wanted to get some good experience first. So once I realized what I wanted to do, I knew that the MBA would definitely help me out in making my career switch more into a finance role.
As one of the people here that's going into the master's program straight out of undergrad, I can definitely say that there's benefits to both sides. So like Brett was saying, having that industry experience is very beneficial, particularly with kind of the case method and how a lot of the things are taught in classes. But at the same time, coming straight out of undergrad, like myself, you get what I see as a pretty big benefit of kind of knowing how to do school, so to speak. So you're used to studying, you're used to being up all night writing papers and things of that nature. So you have those benefits that are very normal for you already, and you also get a chance to learn from the people in industry. So back to the teamwork again, I can be in a group with someone that's worked for 10 years and learn how to use what we've learned in class or use what he's learned in industry to learn a topic. At the same time, he can learn kind of how to study and how to do things in a more class format. So we really have to feed off of each other, but there are pros and cons to having both sides of that, so having the experience and not, and we definitely have a pretty good mix of both here.
The next question is, what functional roles does an operation management student get in manufacturing industry as an intern and after graduation? I know none of you are operations, but do you have ideas of what others
So
have done?
I'm not in operations, but I did intern this past summer and will be going to work full time in a manufacturing setting. And in HR, you kind of get to know what everybody does, so to speak. So I can kind of give some insight to that. So from the perspective of what my company, which was Ford Motor Company, by the way, was looking for with operations, so in terms of interns and full time, is you really get kind of a mix of on the job with the manufacturing training type of position. So you're really on the floor, you're really interacting with the everyday operations, really hour to hour operations that the employees are handling, but at the same time, you are holding more of a strategic role. So what the actual title of that is going to vary across the board. Anything from manufacturing supervisor to plant manager are the types of roles or type of paths that people go into. So a lot of people here that want to stick in the manufacturing setting and operations probably want to end up somewhere on the plant manager level sometime soon.
Move on. I think we've kind of talked a lot about this. The Krannert student body, we're first-year students this year, we're at about 90 students, and we're at about a 50-50 split, domestic versus international. So it's a really diverse student body. We have students from about 19 to 20 different countries, and I believe it's about 25 different states around the United States. So you will literally get to meet students from all over the world. And then these are just some Krannert alumni, and I think one of the nice things about alumni, and students can talk of this too, is that many alumni will come back to campus to recruit. So when you are going to job fairs, in a lot of cases the students will actually be talking to students who were once in their shoes. So I think that makes it very comfortable, or as comfortable as it can be when you're looking for a job, but knowing that those alumni, they love coming back to Purdue. So I think that's a really nice aspect. Okay, next question. What experiences, biggest takeaways do you feel make Purdue's MBA stand out from other programs?
Okay, I'll start on this one. So for me, what stood out from this program, and the reason I came all the way out here, was because we are so diverse and because we're a very quantitative degree. So first I'll start talking about the diversity portion of Purdue. So like Susie said, we're 50% in this new class, international students. Being from a diverse background, to me that's comfort and something very cool. I love learning about new cultures. I love learning about different areas of business. That's why I have an undergraduate international business. So having that around me 24/7 is absolutely phenomenal for me. You cannot walk down these halls and not run into somebody who's international and somebody who's diverse and somebody who can teach something to you. Even within the domestic student population, we have a wide range of people from the various different professions, various amount of years of work experience, interests, dislikes. It's a very cool dynamic and a very cool place to be. And to speak about the quantitative side of it, I love numbers. And I know that people coming out of Purdue are very number-based, very hard-driven, very business people. And that's what I wanted out of a career, and that's why I came here. So for me, that's been the best takeaway from Purdue.
One of the things that attracted me to Purdue, besides the diversity and, of course, the quantitative focus that they have, is just looking ahead. I'm going to have an amazing network when I get out of here. I'm going to have Sam here. He's going to be in Thailand. You know, and the students that you build these relationships with over the 2 years are going to be strong. And when you graduate, you're going to have a really strong network. And the Purdue name goes global. So no matter where you go, people are going to know Purdue. And it's a good way to get your foot in the door of anybody you want to talk to. So.
And yeah, why did you come all the way from Thailand to Indiana?
All right. There are so many reasons why I chose Purdue, and I will just focus on a couple of important ones. I totally agree with what Lauren and Brett just said, because the school is very diverse, and it's not that you could make friends from people around the world. That is very valuable too, but it makes the classroom experience very different. Like I could give you one tangible example. Once we have a case discussion about Amazon or e-commerce like eBay, like people from China would throw in ideas, and then they would talk about their experience and from what they have seen, that's why eBay doesn't work well in China, what needs to be changed or adjust, what is the difference? And people from different countries kind of throw in different ideas, and then we learn. It makes classroom experience valuable that way. Also, coming from engineering background, I knew that Purdue is very quantitatively strong. So I had a chance to visit the school before I make the decision, and I sit in on the class, and I knew right away that this is the school that would help leverage my quantitative skill and make me very comfortable in the business settings, because I've heard a lot that in the business context it's sometimes hard to judge, but Purdue fit the quantitative method, and it makes it very clear on how would you make decision on things, because it's focused on the quantitative part of it.
Okay, we are going to, none of the students in here have an operations background, so we are going to run out to our commons area and see if we can grab someone who is in ops who can come in and answer your question. So in the meantime, we can talk a little bit about launching your career, which is done through the Krannert Professional Development Center, KPDC. So they bring in companies to campus to recruit our students. They work with students very closely to help you get your resume put together and your interviewing skills. So why don't you talk a little bit about that experience?
I can talk about that. I've had an awesome experience with the KPDC, the Krannert Professional Development Center, right? Even before I even got to campus, I was paired up with my career coach. Everybody gets their own career coach before you get here. You send them your resume, and they polish it up. So by the time you get to campus, you already got this polished resume. And then they start immediately when you get here, coaching you on your interviewing skills, your 30-second elevator pitch, mock interviews, anything that you need, because in that first month, by the time you get here, we're already doing our first career fair right here in Rawls Hall at Purdue. So there's a lot of practice that can be done, and there's always career counselors that are there anytime you want to talk to them, they'll be available to help you out.
One interesting story, one of our first year students told, if you notice when Lauren was speaking, she has a P on her lapel, and students who were standing in line waiting to talk to interviewers actually were pulled out of line by Purdue alumni or by people who recognized the Purdue P, letting them know that we want you to come talk to us, just because they knew that they were Purdue students. Okay, we have an ops person here, Priyanka, and so she can answer just talking about operations being Purdue's strengths and kind of why you chose that, and just give an overview.
Okay. With operations being Purdue's strength, why I chose ops, or more in terms of how operations is progressing and what type of roles that you can find? Kind of just all of it? Okay. Well, hi. I came from an operations background, and so with that operations management, I was doing construction management with operations, and how Purdue can kind of, I guess, enhance that and what different courses that you can take. They have a lot of speakers that come here with operations to give you more information regarding different roles. Some specific examples of roles that you can have in operations when you leave is, I guess in terms, you can go with global supply chain and do, or just regular supply chain and work with supply chain network operations. You know, and if you're a manager in that role, you would typically know, like from point A to point B, what are the different problems you're going to have transferring your good or executing your service that you are planning to provide. With so that would be the supply chain route through operations, or you can go through the manufacturing route, which is where you would manage an operation of a product. For example, popcorn. You could have a role where you're managing the production lines of popcorn and seeing the different complications that would come if you're for the different types of production of popcorn. And that's just a small example, but and then another one would be overall operations management, and that would be anywhere from working in a warehouse and deciding what kind of pathways that you would want something to take. For example, Amazon would be a great example for the different types of positions that you could use in there as well. And as far as how Purdue really caters to operations, what they have, there's several opportunities with speakers coming in. You get the opportunity to attend city treks and visit different companies and see how their operations work, as well as join in a lot of student organizations here that focus in operations and sharing discussions with your classmates who have had that in their past experiences as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have more questions coming. Are there any classes or lectures that focus on import-export compliance? I'm getting funny looks from the table. These are second years, I would say no, but
we do have one class called Global Supply Chain Management that kind of touches on it briefly. We do talk about imports and exports and duties and tariffs and stuff like that. We are just starting to get to that portion of the class right now. So we've been doing a lot of other aspects of it. So I can say, yes, we talk about it. We don't have a class that's specifically focused on that particular topic.
Okay, don't go away, Priyanka. What companies has the Ops Club visited on their city treks?
Okay, they have the city treks separately, and then the Ops Club schedules different treks throughout the semester. Ones that I've attended are Caterpillar. I know they also, one that I couldn't go to but sounded really exciting, is a FedEx overnight tour. They will actually go at night when their operations is at a high peak time. So that's another one. And then ConAgra is one where we went, and that's where we got to see a lot of the popcorn production. Amazon, depending on where you are in your job search process, you might get the opportunity to go check out one of their fulfillment centers. And again, that one's not open to all students. It just depends on what kind of opportunities get presented to you during your time here. And I believe they were working on Boeing and another firm as well. I can't remember.
Subaru as well.
Subaru.
Yeah,
oh,
so, yeah, Subaru is really cool because we went as well with Net Impact because it's a zero waste plant is the one that you went to. Did you end up going on that trip?
On that one.
That was, it sounded pretty awesome. So that's another really great operations trip that you can go on.
Okay. And also, I know that my roommate is in the Ops Club, and then she went to Caterpillar and also Amazon.
And any companies that specifically recruit for operations from Purdue?
All those on the screen.
Yeah.
Procter & Gamble is a huge recruiter. Amazon is huge. Cummings is huge. Sears is definitely on campus.
Bank of America.
Yeah. Bank of America's out there on campus.
They're on right now.
Okay.
So.
It's Rolls-Royce, yeah.
Okay, next question. Do any of the finance and or accounting classes discuss international tax laws or trade agreements, perhaps in case studies? I'm curious if the classes bring in a global focus international business concept.
Yes, we have an international accounting and international finance class. I have not personally taken them, I don't know if anybody else here has either. But what we do have, we don't have an international business ready-made concentration here. It's kind of, you can take so many different classes, and each section or each concentration has one global class. So for supply chain, we have the global supply chain. There's global marketing. There's a global accounting class. There's a global finance class. There's a global HR class. So if you want to have that international business experience, you can definitely get that here. It'll be a broader range. What you also have the ability to do so, if you have that very specific area that you're interested in, you can hook up with a professor and do an independent study. We have a lot of professors who are very willing to do independent studies with our students. So if you find something that's really fascinating, you could do a research project and kind of do basically your own course, or even create your own ELI project with a professor and really explore that area even more.
I think the important thing to remember is if you're looking for global experience, the best way to get it is outside the classroom. So you're going to have opportunities like ELI, like the Global Business Project, like Study Abroad. And then I know our marketing professor has a project that he's doing this summer that's not affiliated with the class, but he's going to do it anyway. And he's taking people from that class to go over and do that. So there are tons of opportunities that are not class related that are going to get you so much better experience in the global realm. You can get it in class, but the better way to do it is to supplement that with experiential.
Okay. And here is a very important question. What has been your experience in Indiana outside of campus? What activities do you guys pursue apart from school?
I don't know how about on camera. I could touch on this question. So I'm originally from Wisconsin, not too far away, not horribly different. And I did do my undergrad in Indiana, but this obviously is a question that does come up a lot for people coming from out of state or even out of the country. And when I asked this question originally, someone kind of gave it to me with an asterisk to say, well, you're here for school, so to be, kind of blatantly honest with you, most of your time is going to be spent here. So you don't have as much free time as you might have had, in industry or even in undergrad, for example. But there is definitely a lot to do here. So I'm a huge sports fan. So being in Indiana, basketball is huge here. We're on a major Big Ten university, so basketball games with teams from across the country are pretty common. Football games may or may not be as fun available, but all types of sporting events are obviously here. We're an hour or even less from Indianapolis, so you have professional teams there. I went to a Colts game this year. I know people kind of grouped together and went to Pacers games. You have similar things for Chicago, so Bulls and Bears and White Sox games, but that only being 2 hours away. So there's definitely a lot to offer in terms of sports, which is something I liked, but there's also a lot of cultural events. So West Lafayette, they'll do different kind of just events, just kind of community type building events that are really great. So there's a lot to do from that kind of perspective, and I'm sure other people can kind of tell you some of the other things they do around here for fun.
And we can come back to that. The next question is, can you elaborate on the advantages, disadvantages of studying managerial accounting instead of financial accounting?
You have to take financial accounting when you come here if you're doing the MBA program. So that's the first step. Managerial accounting is an option or another class that you can take on top of that. So you will definitely have to take financial accounting in general. The differences between the two of them, I ended up liking managerial accounting a little bit better than financial accounting just because it adds a little more operations to it, and it's a different facet than what I was used to in my professional experience. But again, it's up to your own preference. It's not as necessary unless you're taking trying to be an MSA, pardon me. Then I believe you have to take both of those classes.
And Lindsay just put up a great website to talk to that further. Anybody else want to talk about Lafayette Community Culture Fest? Culture Fest is awesome.
Okay. Okay, I'll talk about Culture Fest. So Culture Fest is a wonderful run program actually through Krannert. It's my position. We ended up running it this year. And what we do is we bring the different students on, from Krannert and across the undergrad and grad section, and have them represent and show off their cultures and customs and traditions. So it's a 5-hour event starting here in Rawls Hall, where we have a booth-like section where you have a little activity. You can go to every booth and you can learn phrases from that country. You can play a game. You can eat traditional food. You can do traditional wear. It's quite amazing. This year we had 18 different booths, so we had 18 different cultures represented, which is phenomenal, which is way more than we've had in the past. And then from there we move over to our performing hall here on campus, and we have performances and skits. So we had 8 different performances this year. So we had Latin America do a salsa dance, and then somebody played the piano. China did a fan dance and played with a traditional instrument. So you get a lot of exposure with things like that. So that's just one event. And that's actually housed here in Krannert. And we do make sure that you're going to have some fun here at while you're here at Krannert, because basically, as Julian had said, you have a lot of time here. You're going to spend most of your time in Rawls Hall. It becomes your second home, and sometimes for some people, your first home. But we make sure we have events every single week. So we have unofficial socials. We have social hours every Wednesday where we have free food. We make announcements that we can hang out and talk, and you can hear what's going on within the school and with your friends. So we have Culture Fest. Every month we highlight one country. So in January we're doing Thailand, and Sam's going to help me with that. We also have blanking tailgates. We do tailgates every home football game. We go to basketball games, which will be in January, February-ish. We do student government things. We have case competitions here, which are fun things, and you can help you prepare professionally. Basically, what I'm trying to say is you will always have something here to do at Rawls Hall. Be it through a club, be it through student government, be it for homework, be it just hanging out with your group mates, sitting in the commons area. You will not be bored here. Yes, you can go out and venture into West Lafayette, which there are some fun things. You can go down to Indiana or Indianapolis or go up to Chicago, but you can definitely be entertained just staying here within Rawls Hall.
And to build on that, one thing to remember is this is very Krannert centric, and it's very easy to get stuck in, like, I'm in Rawls, I'm in Krannert, this is my world. But I did my undergrad here, and you can branch out into all of the Purdue clubs as well. So if you like to row crew, or if you want to try it, you can do that. I got my advanced open water certification for scuba diving here. You can do, you can do ballroom dancing. You can do all kinds of stuff. Whatever you're into, there's a club for it on campus. So you're not limited to Krannert. You have a campus of 40,000 people to pick and choose from.
Okay. So we're getting towards the end. So one question, and this was kind of a good lead-in to Lauren mentioned case studies. What sort of things do you discuss in case studies, and what difference do you feel after your first year of MBA? So I guess let's have one of you talk about just briefly what a case study is, and then maybe someone else talk about how you feel differently going from first year to second year. So case study?
Well, I can talk about a case study. Basically, all a case study is a real-life situation, usually in a company that is presented to you. They usually change the name of the company around, but it's sort of the closest you can get in a classroom putting you in a real-life situation. So you're given the case, and it can be a marketing case, it can be a finance case, operations, anything like that, and then it's presented a situation or a problem that that company organization is having, and it's up to you and your team to analyze the case and sort through the details and to come up with a solution to the problem that's in that case. So it's basically applying what you learn in class to these real-life situations.
Okay. And one of you want to talk about how second year differs from first year?
Okay, go ahead. You want me to talk?
I can do that too if you.
First year to second year. First year is a shock, I would say. You're going to get an awakening as to what you thought was a lot of work and what's actually a lot of work. But the difference between first year and second year is not necessarily that the workload goes down or it's easy. You just have learned how to manage it better. And while that sounds a little rough, it's going to prepare you very well to be productive in the workplace and to be prepared for that first job you take out of MBA school.
Okay, great. And one more question. Do you have any interactions with other students at Purdue, for instance, engineering, for activities like case competitions or entrepreneurship courses?
We do. I'm actually working on a project right now called the Student Managed Venture Fund, and there's students on my team from like the nanotechnology department and health and human sciences. So I do get exposure to other people with other areas of studies.
Okay, great. So 7 o'clock, so we are going to close the chat down for now. We are planning on having another one in January, so watch the website and we'll have more dates posted. So if you have more questions, feel free to join another chat, and I will put up contact information. So you are welcome to give us a contact. And for those of you who are interested in global supply chain or global entrepreneurship program, the specific departmental contacts are there, so feel free to contact them. And they will give you more specific information about those two programs. If you have general questions about the MBA, HR program, accounting, finance, you can email us at krannertmasters@purdue.edu. So again, we thank you for coming, and thank you for your interest in Purdue.